What is up, Pitt fans? Thank you so much for tuning in to Inside the Panthers on YouTube. My name is Stephen Thompson, coming at you with the special edition of the Inside Pitt Practice Report just after Pro Day. Pitt's Pro Day. The Panthers had a handful of their upperclassmen, their draft eligible guys, compete today. They worked out today at the UPMC Rooney Complex. An emotional day, a hopeful day. Their final workouts as Panthers, they got to do it in front of their friends, in front of their old teammates, their families, their coaches. This is always a fun day. I think it's exciting. It's one of those days where hope kind of springs eternal. The possibilities are endless. You think everyone has a chance. That's just what you spend the day doing. You think about everyone's path, possibly to the NFL, and we're going to get to it in a minute. But I think this class, I think you'd imagine coming off a 3-9 year, coming off a day, a really disappointing season, especially given what the Panthers had done over the past two seasons prior. You'd expect a step back in terms of the amount of guys that they're able to put into the NFL. And there will be, but I still think there are plenty of talented players in here, plenty of guys that are going to earn some invites to mini camps and things like that. But also some guys that are going to get drafted. And I think some guys that are going to be really surprising. Let's talk about one of those guys who was really surprising today, and that was AJ Woods. AJ Woods, I think, you knew about the three guys who uh, were invited to the combine. Devonshire, Calves, and Bub Means. They kind of did their thing and they stole the show there, and they really surprised people there. AJ Woods was the one who didn't get invited to the combine, did get a chance to show out at the East West Shrine Bowl, the Hula Bowl, but this was the guy who really turned heads in the testing portion of things today. I think when you turn on the film, AJ Woods is clearly a good player. He's kind of the most targeted of those three receivers who had started the past couple years for the Panthers. Of Williams, of Devonshire, of Woods. Woods was the one who got attacked the most, but he was also the one who ended up with the most passes defended. Got his hands on balls. A little undersized, as Pat Narduzzi corners tend to be. He's only 5'10", but did weigh in at 187 pounds. He did 16 bench press reps, had an unreal vertical jump at 37.5 inches, broad jump 10 feet 3 inches, and then had a blazing 40-yard dash time at 4.3. He says that he did run a 4.27 while he was down in training in Florida. I believe he said it was in Fort Myers. You know, Unofficial, we'll put it that way, but you don't need times to tell you that AJ Woods is fast. This was a perfect event for him. I think he's a really athletic guy, and you combine that with a guy who clearly has good ball skills and is sticky in coverage. When you turn on the film, he had an incredible day, and I think really turned some heads. And we're gonna get to it later, but I think this is a guy that is kind of coming from outside, out from the periphery, who I think could really impress some people and really have a good day. Off the radar a bit, but a really strong player, a really talented player, and a guy who I think because of his size got overlooked a lot. But there are plenty of teams that need a slot corner. That's probably where it fits in the NFL. At 5'10", it's hard to make it as an outside guy, but there is undoubtedly a path to the NFL for AJ Woods. And you know, it it's just funny because it doesn't mean that they were bad players, but I didn't have the highest opinion of Eric Hallett or Brandon Hill's draft stock coming out of Pitt. And those guys both found places in the sixth and seventh round. But Pitt has clearly developed a reputation, and I think drawing from that, you can kind of, and some other evidence. You think about Avante Maddox making it in the league. You think about Dane Jackson and Damar Hamlin, and you can go back as far as K'Wan Williams, but Pitt puts DBs in the NFL. They get these guys shots, and that's why I think Woods, a guy who isn't really on any draft boards right now, I think at best he'd still be probably at best a fifth round pick, but he's playing his way into consideration. And it's credit to him. It's credit to the work that he's put in, but it's also a knock at these kind of systems that we have in place, because this guy would have killed at the combine. He would have instantly turned heads at the combine. Instead, he had to wait until his pro day where to really show out and show off that athleticism. I do also want to shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about Matt Goncalves a little bit. This is the first time we're seeing him go through kind of combine style testing. He was hurt for most of last year. I don't think he played after the month of September. He had a toe injury that is still nagging him. He says he's only at about 85 or 90%. But I think I was still uh, pretty impressed with what Matt was able to do, checking in at 6'6" and 317 pounds, a vertical jump of 30 and a half, ran the 40-yard dash in 5.06 seconds. Not his best work, you know. He has a nagging injury that is keeping him back, that is holding him back. But he told us there was a little bit of desperation. There was a little bit of, well, I'm not going to be able to do this again. I'm not going to be able to, show who I am. Pat Narduzzi praised his toughness. Narduzzi said, that this is just kind of who Matt is. He is a tough guy. He's played through injuries before. And Goncalves had, an understanding with some of the NFL teams that he's talked to that he's not at 100%, that these numbers should be taken with a grain of salt. But he also said, this is just kind of who I am too. There was never a thought in my mind that I wouldn't, come out here and do what he could do. And he felt good enough to move, good enough to do the workouts. So he went through it all. And I think had a pretty good day. But you do want to keep an eye on that injury, how it'll affect his draft stock. I mean, I think the encouraging thing is that even going into the offseason, he was considered, at best, I think a round 3 pick, which is pretty good for a guy who didn't play most of last season. That's very encouraging. And I think he comes out and he shows his injury is in the rear view a little bit, that he's working past it. That'll really help his stock as well. Moving on to a little bit there, but a couple less notable shout outs, but still things that I want to highlight, some impressive things that we saw while we were at the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex this morning. I'll start with Bub Means weighing in at 227 pounds. I mean, that's massive. I literally heard a scout ask, "Oh, how big is Means right now?" And someone told them 227, and they said that's big as blank. I can't really say it. I shouldn't say it. He put on 15 pounds since he's checked in at the combine. He was 212 in Indianapolis. It is remarkable to add that much weight in about a month, probably a little less than a month. Mean said it's, pretty much all water weight. He hydrates a ton before workouts like this, and he says he can lose, up to 4 or 5 pounds in a workout like this. So his playing weight is closer to 220. He cut down a little bit when he got to the combine, maybe helped up that 40 time a little bit. I was a little bitter. We didn't get to see him run because I would have loved to see how he moved at 227, but we will have to wait. And we can kind of take his 4.43, I believe it was, at the NFL combine as Bub's kind of true 40-yard time there. Also Marquez Williams really showed out, I thought, on the bench press, checking in at only, I believe it was less than 180 pounds, like 176 pounds, but he did 12 reps on the bench press at 225. I thought it was incredibly impressive what he was able to do there. Did had some good numbers, on the broad and the vertical jump, especially at his size. Like I said, I mean, size is everything. Um, he's a guy who, if he's trying to sell you, if you're trying to sell someone on Marquez Williams, you're just going to flip on the tape. You're not going to look at these measurements because they will not help him. Someone telling you he's 5'8" isn't going to make you feel very good, but you watch him work out, you watch him play the actual corner position, and I think you change your mind a little bit. Another guy, Shane Simon, in kind of the same vein as AJ Woods to a lesser extent, though, I think did himself a great deal of work. Ran the 40-yard dash in a 4.63 seconds at 229 pounds. It's incredibly impressive. His 3-cone drill would have been the fastest among all NFL linebackers or NFL combine linebackers at 7 seconds. So he's got some explosiveness to him. Obviously, we know the smarts. He's played a lot of football. I think he's big. I think he's built. I think he's really strong. Did 23 bench press reps. Another guy who I think did some great things for himself, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. Probably an undrafted guy. Wouldn't be super stunned to see him get drafted. I'm pretty high on Shane Simon. I think higher than some other people, though. David Green stole the show at the bench press, though. He did, and I want to get this right. I believe it was 25 reps on the bench press. Yes, he did 25 reps at 225 pounds. Shout out to David Green, taking home the bench press crown for the day. And then I'll finish it off with this. Phil Dracovic worked out as a tight end today. I've talked about this a little bit on Twitter. never kind of formally like this. I really respect Phil's ability to, or his willingness to kind of to keep after his dream, to be quite honest. And that sounds kind of corny, but during the season when he was switching to tight end, I think he saw an opportunity for him to maybe try something different, maybe find another path to professional football. Um, but I think it also was a way to help the team. He wasn't playing quarterback. He wasn't didn't go that way. Didn't go his way there. So I think he found a different way to try to help the team, and I really respected that a lot. I think Jerkovic also kind of knows that the NFL is a little bit of a long shot at this point. He's going to have to work his way up if he's going to get there. So he acknowledged like, CFL, UFL, those are routes that he's willing to take if it means he gets to keep playing professional football. And I don't know, I respect the hell out of that. I really, respect this guy trying to chase his dreams for this long and to keep after it. I think a season like last year would really crush a lot of people's spirits if they were in Phil Drakovic's shoes, and I can appreciate the fact that he didn't let that happen to him. That's pretty admirable. Um, I said this at the top. I mean, I expect all three of those guys who went to the NFL Combine to get drafted. I mean, Goncalves was the highest, kind of had the highest stock of all of them. And I don't think that's going to drop after he does these workouts. Devonshire, I think, showed off some speed, some fluidity. He's probably a late round pick, but still a pretty solidly in that field. And then I think Means has done himself a world of good in that combine. He showed some incredibly impressive numbers at his size. He's a much more refined route runner. He's got great hands and the size and everything I said. So I think he's being talked about as possibly a day two pick, which is unbelievable to think about. And you look at his production over the latter, I would call it 2/3, 3/5 or whatever of the 2023 season, and he was excellent. He was outstanding. He was one of the better receivers in the ACC. You expand let's call it those final 8 games of the year over 12 games and to his 12-game season, and it's damn near 1,400 yards. It's 8 touchdowns, something like that. He's got the production on film to kind of match all the incredible physical skills that we've seen from Means. But I think Woods is also playing his way into a draft spot as well. Like this is a guy who, like I said, you're going to draft Eric Hallett and Brandon Hill, but not AJ Woods, a productive player in the same vein for just as long and is a better athlete or just as good an athlete as Hill, I would say, if not better, and definitely a better athlete than Hallett. Like I think Woods absolutely has a chance to get drafted. I think he should get drafted. And Pat Narduzzi said it today. You'd be crazy not to draft that guy. Um, and I think there are some other guys here. I think David Green has a chance to maybe get some looks from NFL teams. I think that could be true for Jake Cradle as well. Maybe they get a mini camp or a training camp invite. Um, but I think Shane Simon is also right in that a little bit of a tier above those guys as well. Kind of maybe on the fringe of possibly being a seventh round pick versus an undrafted guy, but this guy wasn't on any draft boards before, and I think he did himself a world of good at Pitt's Pro Day this week. So like I said at the top, I think you expect a step back in terms of NFL production from what they were able to do over the past couple of years, but it won't be nearly as dramatic as I thought it would be. Watching you guys work out today, seeing some of the evaluations that they got, talking to them, I'm a little bit more optimistic about some of these guys' chances of really making it in the NFL as well. But with that, I'm headed out of here. Thank you all so much for tuning in to another Inside Pitt practice report. I'll be back tomorrow with another video recapping another day of Pitt spring practice. Make sure you check that out at Inside the Panthers on YouTube. Make sure you like this video and subscribe. Check out all of our reporting at si.com/college/Pittsburgh. And just keep in touch with us as we get through the offseason. We follow some basketball recruiting and spring ball as well. Like I said, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.